Gold was never chosen to be money. No king declared it. No government designed it. No law gave it authority. And yet, it outlived them all. Empires rose, issued currencies, collapsed. And their money vanished with them. Wars ended regimes. Inflation erased trust. Financial systems broke apart. But gold remained. For over 5,000 years, thousands of materials tried to become money. Grain, cattle, shells, salt, copper, paper, promises. Each one failed under pressure. Gold didn't win because it was perfect. It won because it survived a brutal historical elimination process that destroyed everything else. So if governments create money, why has gold survived every government? To understand why gold won, we first have to understand what money really is, and what it has never been. Long before money had a name, before coins, before banks, before governments, humans were already solving a problem. How do you trade when you don't trust tomorrow? In the earliest societies, there was no such thing as money in the modern sense. There were no printed notes, no national currencies, no central authorities setting value. There was only survival. Small communities exchanged what they had: food, tools, labor, through barter. But barter was fragile. It required coincidence. You needed what I had, and I needed what you had, at the same time. That worked, until societies grew. As villages turned into cities, and cities into civilizations, simple barter collapsed under its own complexity. So humans adapted. In ancient Mesopotamia, one of the world's first complex societies, trade didn't rely on coins at all. It relied on records. Clay tablets tracked debts. Who owed grain? Who owed labor? Who owed silver? Measured, not exchanged. Money, in its earliest form, wasn't a thing you held. It was a promise recorded in memory and mud. In Egypt, wealth was measured in grain. In pastoral societies, value lived in cattle. In coastal regions, shells became units of exchange. Elsewhere, salt, copper, beads, or cloth carry value. None of these systems were declared by rulers. They emerged because they worked. For a while. This is the first truth most people miss. Money did not begin as a political invention. It began as a human response to uncertainty. At its core, money is not about wealth. It's about trust across time. Can what I accept today still matter tomorrow? Over centuries, societies began converging, independently, on three core functions money had to serve. First, a medium of exchange. It had to move easily between people. Second, a unit of account. It had to measure value consistently. Third, and most fragile, a store of value. It had to survive time itself. This third function was where most forms of money began to break. Grain could be counted, but it rotted. Cattle could represent wealth, but they died. Shells could circulate, but they could be found, suddenly, in massive quantities. Salt could preserve food, but trade routes could flood the market. Again and again, societies discovered the same lesson the hard way. What works as money in one generation often fails in the next. And when money fails, it doesn't collapse quietly. It fractures trust. It rewrites social hierarchies. It destabilizes entire civilizations. This is why money kept changing. Not because humans were indecisive, but because reality kept exposing weakness. Every civilization was running the same experiment. Can this thing carry value? Through time, pressure, and crisis? Most could not. And here's the deeper insight. Money is not created by authority. Authority emerges around money that already works. Long before kings stamped faces on coins, people were already choosing what to trust. Not through ideology, not through belief, but through repeated failure. Money evolved the way tools evolve, the way languages evolve, the way survival strategies evolve. Through trial, through error, through collapse. By the time gold entered the story, humanity had already tested thousands of alternatives. and buried the evidence of their failure in history. So the real question isn't why gold became money. The real question is, why did every other form eventually break? Because to understand gold's rise, we first have to understand the long graveyard of failed monies it quietly replaced. History doesn't remember most forms of money, not because they were insignificant, but because they failed. Across thousands of years, civilizations ran the same experiment over and over again, each believing their solution might last. It rarely did. In ancient Sumer and Egypt, grain became money. It made sense. Grain fed armies, paid workers, stored labor in physical form. But grain had a fatal flaw. It decayed. Rot, insects, drought, and theft slowly erased value. Worse, those who controlled the granaries controlled the supply. And with it, power. Grain money didn't collapse politically. It collapsed physically. Then there was cattle. In pastoral societies, wealth walked on four legs. Cattle reproduced. They symbolized status. They could be counted. But cattle were indivisible. Hard to transport. Easy to lose to disease, theft, or war. You couldn't pay for a loaf of bread with half a cow. As trade expanded, cattle money broke under complexity. Along coastlines and trade routes, shells became money. Rare, beautiful, durable. For centuries they worked. Until they didn't. When new trade paths opened. When explorers arrived with shiploads of shells. Sudden abundance destroyed scarcity. Prices exploded. Trust collapsed. Shell money didn't fail because people stopped believing in it. It failed because nature changed the supply. Salt followed a similar path. In parts of Africa and Europe, salt preserved food, sustained armies, and became currency. But salt deposits weren't fixed. New mines shifted supply. Trade routes fluctuated. What once was rare became common. Copper and bronze came next. They were solid, malleable, easy to shape into standardized forms. But they corroded, wore down, and most critically, they could be diluted. Rulers learned quickly that by mixing cheaper metals into coins, they could mint more money without increasing real value. Debasement didn't announce itself. It crept in quietly. Coins looked the same, felt the same. But over time, people noticed. Prices rose. Confidence fell. Trade slowed. Civilizations didn't collapse immediately. They eroded. Again and again, history repeated the same pattern. A material worked as money, until scale, time, or power exposed its weakness. This is the hidden mechanism behind monetary failure. Money doesn't usually fail because of ideology. It fails because it violates one or more physical rules: durability, scarcity, divisibility, portability, uniformity. Break even one of these, and money begins to leak trust. Break several, and it collapses. What's striking is how universal this process was. These societies didn't communicate. They didn't share economic theory. Yet they reached the same conclusions. Through failure. Money wasn't designed. It was selected. Each collapse narrowed the field. Each failure eliminated a contender. And the stakes were never abstract. When money failed, armies went unpaid. Food systems broke. Trade networks dissolved. People suffered first. Empires followed. This is why history is littered with monetary experiments. And why most of them are forgotten. They were temporary solutions to permanent problems. And then, quietly, one material began passing every test. That destroyed the rest. It didn't rot. It didn't corrode. It couldn't be diluted without detection. It didn't need belief to survive. Only time. Gold didn't announce itself as the answer. It simply remained. After everything else failed. And in that silence, a pattern began to form. Gold did not arrive as an idea. It arrived as a fact. Long before it was money. Gold was simply there. In riverbeds. In mountain veins. unchanged by fire, water, or time, while other materials aged, decayed, or corroded. Gold remained exactly what it was. That permanence mattered. Because money, at its core, is a promise to the future. And most materials cannot survive the future. Gold could. It didn't rust. It didn't rot. It didn't degrade with handling. A gold object buried for 1,000 years could be recovered and used again, unchanged. Scarcity was the next test. Gold was rare enough to matter, but not so rare that it couldn't circulate. It couldn't be created by accident. It couldn't be grown. And it couldn't be discovered in unlimited quantities overnight. Every new ounce required effort, labor, and time. That cost anchored value. Then came divisibility. Gold could be melted, divided, and reformed without losing quality. You could make a large payment, or a small one, without destroying the material itself. Few substances in history could do that. Portability followed naturally. Gold condensed enormous value into small weight. A fortune could be carried in a pocket. An army could be paid without wagon loads of goods. Uniformity mattered too. An ounce of gold in one region was functionally the same in another. No translation required. No cultural belief system needed. Gold spoke a universal language before global languages existed. But perhaps gold's most underestimated advantage was recognizability. Gold looked like nothing else. Its color was unmistakable. Its weight betrayed fakes. Its softness and density made counterfeiting difficult for most of history. You didn't need advanced tools to trust it. Your senses were enough. This is why gold spread without conquest. It wasn't forced into circulation. It wasn't imposed by law. People accepted it voluntarily. First as ornament, then as store of wealth, then as medium of exchange. By the time the first gold coins appeared in Lydia in the 7th century BC, gold was already trusted. Coinage didn't create gold's value. It standardized it. Empires noticed. Egypt formalized gold as a measure of wealth. Rome standardized it across vast territories. Islamic civilizations issued gold dinars trusted from Spain to Central Asia. Asian trade routes absorbed gold without resistance. Different cultures, different religions, different political systems. Same conclusion. Gold didn't belong to any one empire. Empires borrowed its credibility. This is the crucial inversion most people miss. Gold did not gain value because authority declared it money. Authority gained legitimacy by aligning itself with gold. Trust in gold existed before law. Law followed trust. And yet, gold's true test wasn't peace. It was crisis. Wars. Debt. Overreach. Collapse. Time and again, gold endured, while political systems fractured around it. But as gold's role grew, so did the tension between money and power. Because gold imposed limits. And limits are intolerable to systems built on expansion. Gold had survived nature. It had survived time. Now it would face something else entirely. The ambition of governments that wanted money they could control. Gold's greatest strength was also its greatest problem. It couldn't be created on command. For rulers, that was intolerable. As empires expanded, their ambitions grew faster than their gold reserves. Armies needed funding. Bureaucracies multiplied. Wars demanded resources that taxation alone could not provide. So governments searched for ways around gold's limits. The Roman Empire was among the first to try. Early Roman coins were trusted across the Mediterranean. But as military campaigns expanded and costs soared, silver and gold content began to shrink. Debasement wasn't sudden. It was gradual. Coins looked the same, but each contained slightly less metal. Over decades, confidence eroded. Prices rose. Trade weakened. Rome didn't fall in a single moment. It hollowed itself out. Throughout the medieval period, the pattern repeated. Kings clipped coins, reduced purity, reminted currency to stretch supply. Each time, the same result followed. Short-term relief. Long-term instability. Then came the age of empire and extraction. When Spain flooded Europe with gold from the Americas, it seemed like unlimited wealth. Instead, prices surged. Savings evaporated. Real prosperity declined. Gold itself hadn't failed. But sudden abundance broke the balance. The lesson was clear, yet often ignored. Gold disciplined power. Power resented discipline. By the 20th century, governments attempted a compromise. Gold-backed currencies promised stability, while allowing limited expansion. The system worked. Until pressure returned. World wars changed everything. To fund total war, nations suspended gold convertibility. Printing replaced restraint. After the wars, gold returned, but weakened. Bretton Woods attempted to anchor global money to gold again, but only partially. The US dollar became the center. Gold stood behind it. Quietly, remotely. For a while, the illusion held. Then came the breaking point. In 1971, the United States severed the final link. No announcement of failure. No dramatic collapse. Just a decision. Gold was removed from the monetary system, not because it failed, but because it constrained. For the first time in 5,000 years, global money floated without an anchor. Currencies became promises backed by confidence alone. Expansion became policy. Debt became normal. Limits disappeared. Gold vanished from wallets, from coins, from daily life. But something strange happened. Gold didn't disappear. Central banks kept it. Vaults stayed full. Settlements still referenced it. Gold had been pushed out of sight, not out of relevance. The conflict wasn't resolved. It was postponed. Because while governments gained flexibility, they also inherited fragility. Without gold, money could grow endlessly. And anything that grows without constraint eventually faces a reckoning. Gold had survived collapse. It had survived manipulation. It had survived removal. Now it existed in a new role. Silent, patient, waiting. The question was no longer whether gold still mattered. It was whether systems built without it could endure the same tests. Today, gold no longer passes from hand to hand. You don't earn it in wages. You don't spend it at a register. You don't see it in your daily transactions. And yet, it never disappeared. In fact, it retreated. Out of sight. Out of politics. Out of public debate. But not out of the system. Every major central bank in the world still holds gold. Not out of nostalgia. Not out of tradition. Out of necessity. Gold sits in vaults as the final settlement asset. The thing that requires no promise. No issuer. No faith in future policy. When trust breaks between nations, gold remains neutral. It doesn't belong to any government. It carries no liability. It cannot default. In moments of crisis, patterns repeat. When currencies expand rapidly, gold rises. When debt accelerates, gold steadies. When confidence erodes, gold reappears, not in headlines, but in balance sheets. This is the paradox of modern money. Gold is no longer currency. But it is still money. Not for spending, but for remembering. Remembering what happens when systems stretch too far. When promises outnumber resources. When confidence replaces constraint. Gold has become monetary insurance. It doesn't prevent crises. It survives them. It doesn't promise growth. It preserves continuity. In a world of digital balances and instant creation, gold remains stubbornly physical. It cannot be updated. It cannot be printed. It cannot be reprogrammed. That makes it slow. And that slowness is the point. Because speed creates power. But stability creates trust. Today's global system rests on confidence, coordination, and debt. As long as belief holds, it functions. But history shows belief is fragile. Empires fracture. Trade realigns. Currencies dilute. And when that happens, Gold doesn't rush in to save the system. It simply remains. Exactly as it has for 5,000 years. Not as a prediction. Not as a belief. But as a memory. A record of every monetary experiment humanity has already lived through. Gold didn't win because it was perfect. It didn't win because it was chosen. It won because everything else failed. Every failed currency. Every rotten grain. Every clipped coin. Every empty promise. They all left a trail that gold quietly survived. Gold is not a belief. It is not ideology. It is the memory of every monetary failure humanity has endured. And when confidence breaks again, when systems are stretched, debts multiply, and promises outweigh reality, what will remain standing? Gold has the answer. It has always had the answer. Waiting, patient, silent, and still unbroken. If this revealed something deeper, subscribe. The patterns of history never lie, and I'll guide you through them.